thanks for tuning into the channel. Today I'm working in my brother's shop. It's a little bit messy and it's crazy windy outside, so I hope you guys can hear me all right. We're gonna be building the bumper for the TJ today. So I got some scrap metal here. We're gonna do just a simple bumper for this. I have these were brackets for the silly little side steps that were on the Jeep, and I'm going to use those as end caps. I got a piece of tubing here that we'll use for a hoop on the front, and I went and bought a tube bender from Harbor Freight. There is no sense in trying to do this outside. It's crazy windy out there. No way you guys are gonna be able to hear me, but let's go ahead and walk out there and I'll talk about my plan a little bit. Hopefully you guys can hear me as I'm doing it. One of the first things I did when I bought this Jeep was go and buy a new winch. I love these winches. They're great. Badlands, 12,000. You get them on sale. I think I paid like $530 for it, so really a good deal. I got the 7 Blacksmiths winch plate. Another really great purchase. This was off of Amazon. It's like 50 bucks. Bolted right on. They even left little cutouts for your bumpers here. So the style I'm going to go for is a super stubby plus those end caps. So hopefully it'll stick out to about here. Then I want a hoop that comes up and over the top of the winch. I'll move these lights up here, probably upgrade to some bigger ones. These are a great light so far. These are those ones that SPL sent me out, and they do great. They have a lot of light. I wish they were a little bit bigger, and they do have a bigger model, so maybe I'll just buy that because it does look good on this Jeep. And then I have some D-ring mounts, and we'll weld those on the new bumper somewhere in here, and hopefully everything ties together really well. This is one of my first bigger fabrication projects, so fingers crossed. Hopefully it turns out good. I hope you guys are hearing me all right. Even this little building is shaking pretty good. So I got this piece of scrap metal here, and I need about 33.5 inches. From here to here is about 33. So I'm gonna have to use this part that has the damage here. It looks like my brother went to cut it off at some point and then changed his mind. So I'll grind that down and fill it in and make it look smooth again. I went ahead and pulled up that 7 Blacksmiths site on Amazon. So they got it for 50 bucks. And they even include the dimensions. So that's great. That's gonna be super helpful. I went out there and I couldn't measure exactly because of the winch on there, but I measured 33.5, and that's exactly what they had measured, or what they have on their plate. These are from Go Off-Road. They are machined steel, and these are what I'll use as my tabs. Maybe I'll get lucky and this spot will be right perfect, because I'm gonna cut it out with my brother's plasma cutter, or at least try to. I've never used one before. And then I'll weld those in there. If I don't trust my welds, I'll have someone else come through and fix it for me. But so first things first, I'm gonna cut this down to 33.5. All right, that's cut. Here's my section. This is just sitting there mocked up, of course. These will kind of go in there like that, and I'll, bevel this to match. Maybe start out a little further, depending on where I'm gonna put these. So I want it to look good, but with still being simple. So now the next step is I'm gonna clean that up and patch it. Okay. And then I'm gonna take this out there. Hopefully my brother has some Torx bits laying around because I forgot mine. And I'm gonna take off the factory bumper, and then I'm just gonna set this under there how I want it. And I should be able to mark out the holes that way, and then put them in the drill press instead of having to sit there with a drill and try to get it right. And in addition to that, I need to mark out and find some scrap metal that my brother has laying around for the lower tie-ins. So there'll be 2 bolt holes up here if this is long enough, big if, and then there'll be a 3rd tie-in bolt down here. So I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna take that bumper off. Starting to take shape. I got that cut. I spent most of my time. This the cut line on the other side, it looks like it has been butt welded right here at some point, or at least that other side did. So I had to grind that down and fill it full of weld and clean it all up. I think we'll be fine though, strength wise. So I popped off my old bumper and this slid in there perfectly. So now I'm just gonna try to mark these out. You know, I'm just gonna cut all of it out. I tried to line that up the best I could so it's level with this back hole on both sides. You'll see it's not sitting flat, so this has to come up a little bit when I build my little tabs there. I went ahead and plasma cut it out, those holes. Plasma cut, whatever. I used a plasma cutter, made some holes there. So it's not the prettiest. If I had the right tool, I could reach down in there and clean it up, but I'm not worried about it. It's going to be hidden underneath that winch plate anyway. The front bolts on the winch plate that hold the winch on interfered with this lip, so I had to go through and you can see I made little notches right there just to clear those bolts. So now I am gonna measure. I'm gonna go out there and measure and see kind of where I want my D-rings to be. And I'll make them even on both sides. I'll use the plasma cutter and I'll cut some holes for that, see if I can make them straight. Well, definitely not the best with that tool, the plasma cutter that is, but I'm pretty close to where I want to be, so I'll clean up the rest with a grinder. And I gotta say, all in all, even though, you know, it's kind of hard to cut with, it's my first experience with one of those, and that's pretty awesome. Definitely an awesome tool to have at your disposal. So let's take this back over to the welding table, and I'm gonna grind that out and clean it up a bit. All right, before I go any further and mess this up, I wanted to show you guys what I was doing. The wind has died down, so that's nice. Here I have my tabs tacked into place. And now I'm playing with my new pipe bender. And I got a nice bend in that. And I'm hoping that I can weld it on about like that. I'll have to notch it. You know, maybe it'll be down there. Maybe it'll be flattened up here. I'm not quite sure. But before I went ahead and bent the other side, I wanted to show you guys that I got one good bend in. That's the first one I've ever done. If you're gonna do this, I wish I would have left this side a little bit longer so I could have got some marks down here and bent a little further, because I'm worried that once I mimic the other side, it's gonna overhang a little bit. Which wouldn't have been a problem when I was going to weld on those ends, but it won't look right now. So what I did is I started with that one right there, and then I made 1/2 inch increments, and that's going from the center of the pipe. Then that wasn't enough, so I came to the left of the screen and made 2 more at 1 inch, and I did 12 pumps on each one. That's kind of the angle I want, so I don't want to do any more. I want it to have some sort of curve, even if that means that I need to add end caps. So now I'm going to go ahead and try to mimic the other side with 0 experience and always hearing people complain about how hard this is. All right, so this is what we're dealing with now. It looks pretty symmetrical, and I don't want to mess with it any further because I think if I do, I'm just gonna mess it up. You know, I still need to cut off this little section over here, and then I'll have to figure out how to cut them to taper them on. But we're looking pretty good, I think. So now I'm gonna cut that end off. Before I go home, I want to tack this on. That's my goal. Well, it's time to call it a day. Ran out of daylight. I got to get home. Probably won't get to this till next weekend, but that's okay. My bull bar turned out good, but before I show you, the angle is way off. I went to go test it out on the Jeep and was like, oh man, this was not what I thought it was. But it should be an easy fix. So here's what we got. We got our tabs on there. Nice looking bumper. But here you can see it's at too shallow of an angle. So I'll cut it off, and I'll cut it a little steeper. And I want it to come up like almost straight up, just out a little bit. So I need to bring it in like yay far. Maybe I'll be able to hammer it in and then, you know, just fill in that gap, but I don't know. But there's a before and after look of the cheap factory bumper and that one. Back at working on the bumper today, and it's not turning out exactly what I had in mind, but it still looks okay, and I'm gonna just finish it out this way and call it good for now. I can always change the bull bar later, but I'm thinking that if I add some lights on the top, which I want to, it won't look as bad. These are like 6-inch circles that I cut out, you know, and they would be mounted a little bit forward. Originally I'd planned on the bar being like up here, and I was way off on my measurement. I guess I'm assuming because of the bends. I'll have to close up this gap a bit, and you know, if I was feeling up to it, I could be, you know, a little more fancy and make it clean where it wraps around this. I need to leave that open for whenever I do a different sway bar. But I think the easiest thing to do would just be to weld this on. I might look around for some more scrap, and maybe I'll do like a little bit of an angle. So I do have these that I decided not to use. That gives it more of an angle. Kind of closes up that end, but I don't know, I just don't think it looks right, you know, and I like the stubby look, so I'm just gonna close that up, probably just use that for now, and if I don't like it, I can always add something later. So I can pull it back off and start welding it all up. It's funny how long these projects always actually take. I told my wife 2 hours, so let's plan on 4. I think I'm like 6-7 hours in now. I do work really slow, but getting really close. My brother yesterday welded on these with his new welder, so I need to go through and clean up all the slag, and I'll sand it all down before I paint it. But right now I wanted to show you what I was doing for these tabs. So the factory bolt, is right here, goes through the bottom of the frame horn here, and I just marked out some scrap metal that was laying around, used the drill press and drilled some holes, bolted it up there, and then I just tapped it straight how I wanted it, and then tapped it real hard to get that little bit of a bend. Now I'm gonna bring the welder out, the little welder, and tack it on, and then I'll go you know, finish welding it out. Still gotta tap up the other side. But I think, you know, 2 bolts up here, 1 bolt down here, it'll be held on pretty good. I'm a beginner welder, of course. There's a few little sections in there that are good. A lot of it's kind of boogery. My brother did this section. Yeah, looking good. And then I was thinking, as far as aesthetics go, I don't like how close this is, but once I get a real or a different sway bar that goes through here, I could probably take this plate and move it back. You know, move the whole winch back into here, and that would free up a lot of space there and might make it look a little better. But yeah, so far so good. I'll get some tacks on there, and then it's going to be all about sanding it down and getting some paint on it. Hopefully it's not too cold to paint today. All right, bumper's all done. Let's take a look. Turned out pretty good. I've been running it like this for a few weeks now. You know, some of my welds are a little boogery and not the prettiest, but you know, it's a home built bumper, so I'm in it like a total of like 60 bucks, including the bed liner paint. And you know, the next thing on the market that's similar to this style, it's, you know, of course my quality is not as good, but similar ones are $600+. I do wish I would have mounted that bar a little bit higher. I have these Nylite clamp style light tabs, and I'll be putting some bigger lights, hopefully from that Novesight company, on there, and I think that will fill in the look a little bit better. Sorry about the engine noise. I'm warming it up, getting ready to go on an adventure today. But you know, now I have some recovery points. I left those on there. I think it looks fine. I didn't have time to run to the store and get some different bolts, and these ones were too long without it, so I'm just gonna run it that way. Yeah, overall looks pretty good, I think. Got recovery points, got a winch mount, got a spot for my lights. What more could you ask for? So overall, I'm happy with it. Relatively cheap investment. I got to learn some new skills, and now I'm set for the trail. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.